Okay. The next little group I have here is on the general topic of love, I guess you could say. Starting again with a little Cole Porter, and this is also from 50 Million Frenchmen, 1929, and sung by the character named May DeVere, who was an aspiring singer. Now, before this modern idea had burst about the women and children first, the men had much more charm than they have today. And if only one of that type survived, the very moment he arrived, I know I'd fall in love in a great big way. I can't imagine being bad with an Arrow collar ad, nor could I take the slightest joy in waking up a college boy. I've no desire to be alone with Rudy Valley's megaphone. So when I'm saying my prayers, I say, find me a primitive man built on a primitive plan, someone with vigor and vim. I don't mean the kind that belongs to a club, but the kind that has a club that belongs to him. I could be the personal slave of someone just out of a cave. The only man who'll ever win me has got to wake up the gypsy in me. Find me a primitive man. Find me a primitive man, find me a forthright young lad, someone with vigor to spare. Those fatuous beaux they call gigolos could never give me happiness. I must have a gorgeous beast to heat up my own central heat, and he who aspires to be my stud must reawake my gypsy blood. Find me a primitive man. The next two here I picked out are both by a writer from later in the 20th century named Sheldon Harnick. And he is by far best known for being on the team that wrote Fiddler on the Roof, but wrote a number of other Broadway productions. And we have another little reference to a somewhat recurring theme that I didn't plan, but in the first line you'll find a little animal that we've already discussed today. This is called The Shape of Things. Completely round is the perfect pearl the oyster manufactures. Completely round is the steering wheel that leads to compound fractures. Completely round is the golden fruit that hangs on the orange tree. Yes, the circle shape is quite renowned. 'Tis sad to say it can be found in the low-down dirty runaround my true love gave to me. Yes, my true love gave to me. Completely square was the velvet box he said my ring would be in. Completely square was the envelope he said farewell to me in. Completely square was the handkerchief I burnish constantly. As it dries my eyes, the tears I shed, and blows my nose till it turns bright red, for a perfect square is my true lover's head. He will not marry me. No, he will not marry me. Rectangular was the hotel door, my true love to sneak through. Rectangular was the transom over which I had to peek through. Rectangular was the hotel room I entered angrily. Now rectangular was the wooden box where lies my love neath the golden phlox. They say he died of the chicken pox. In part, I must agree. One chick too many had he. Triangular is the piece of pie I eat to ease my sorrow. Triangular is the hatchet blade I plan to hide tomorrow. Triangular the relationship that now has ceased to be, and triangular is the garment thin that fastens on with a safety pin to a prize I had no wish to win. It's a lasting memory that my true love gave to me. And the second one by Harnacker is called Someone's Been Sending Me Flowers. Somebody's sending me flowers. Oh, what a nice thing to do. Every day brings another bouquet, and I don't know who to say thank you to. Sometimes they're thrown through the window, or down the chimney they fall. Sometimes at night, when I turn out the light, they come through a crack in the wall. Now that my house is a garden, bursting with blossoms and blooms, I stand there for hours admiring my flowers, and I'd like to sit down, but there just isn't any room. Somebody's sending me flowers, more than I've ever had. And it's adorable stuff, but enough is enough. And if I see another bouquet, I'll go mad. Flowers are the language of love, I'm told, a language divine. Each pretty little blossom has a message to unfold. That's all except mine. Now, if flowers are the language of affection, well, how can I interpret this collection? He started by sending me bluebells. Strangely enough, they were gray. Each little bloom had a horrid perfume, and besides being gray, they were papier-mâché. There followed a large pot of fungus. Then, as an added surprise, he sent me a plant that proceeded to pant and later began catching flies. Oh, the cactus corsage touched me deeply. A beautiful plant in its prime. And I felt much the same when the rock garden came, one rock at a time. Somebody madly adores me. I don't know who to suspect. And I can't afford to be madly adored. Oh, I do wish he'd stop sending flowers to collect. And finally, here in the love category, we have a British song by the team of Michael Flanders and Donald Swan, who both lived in the middle of the 20th century and for a fairly brief period had an extremely active career doing stage shows, writing most, if not all, of their own material. And most of it is in the humorous vein. And in the process of looking at this one, I discovered that there's an example of some of the kind of sophisticated structure to some of these song lyrics. There's something that I've never come across before, a term in grammar, in poetry, that's existed apparently since Greek times. A couple of the verses in the song have something called a solipsis, which is basically joining parts of a sentence together with a single word that sort of takes on a double meaning, depending on which part of the sentence it's referring to, and it serves a double purpose. After I read it, I can give you one of the examples of that. This is titled, Have Some Madeira, Madeir. She was young, she was pure, she was new, she was nice, she was fair, she was sweet 17. He was old, he was vile, and had no stranger to vice. And no stranger to vice. He was base, he was bad, he was mean. He had slyly inveigled her up to his flat to view his collection of stamps. And he said, as he hastened to put out the cat, the wine, the cigar, and the lamps, "Have some Madeira, my dear. You really have nothing to fear. I'm not trying to tempt you. That wouldn't be right. You shouldn't drink spirits at this time of night. Have some Madeira, my dear. It's really much nicer than beer. I don't care for sherry. One cannot drink stout. And port is a wine I can well do without. It's simply a case of chacun a son gout. Have some Madeira, my dear." unaware of the wiles of the snake in the grass and the fate of the maiden who topes, she lowered her standards by raising her glass. Her courage, her eyes, and his hopes. She sipped it, she drank it, she drained it, she did. He promptly refilled it again, and he said as he secretly carved one more notch on the butt of his gold-headed cane, "Have some Madeira, my dear. I've got a small cask of it here, and once it's been opened, you know it won't keep. Do finish it up, it will help you sleep. Have some Madeira, my dear. It's really an excellent year. Now, if it were gin, you'd be wrong to say yes. The evil gin does will be hard to assess. Besides, it's inclined to affect me prowess. Have some Madeira, my dear." Then there flashed through her mind what her mother had said, with her antepenultimate breath. "Oh, my child, should you look on the wine that is red, be prepared for a fate worse than death." She let go her glass with a shrill little cry. Crash, tinkle, it fell to the floor. When he asked, "What in heaven?" she made no reply. Up her mind and a dash for the door. "Have some Madeira, my dear," rang out down the hall loud and clear. A tremulous cry that was filled with despair as she paused to take breath in the cool midnight air. "Have some Madeira, my dear." The words seemed to ring in her ear until the next morning she woke up in bed with a smile on her lips and an ache in her head and a beard in her ear hole that tickled and said, "Have some Madeira, my dear." So the lines that are called solipsis there, just for a little educational moment, in case you don't know, when they say something like, "And he has hastened to put out the cat, the wine, his cigar, and the lamp." So put out takes on multiple meanings there. Throwing out the cat, putting out the cigar, and there's a few more in there. One I didn't even catch until I was just reading it through this time.